Good morning, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Well, it's the end of the world as we know it. Oh, and our one life is moving back to a boundless world. In a boundless world, it will never end. Maybe it's not the end of the world as we know it. Which means we will not have seeds. That is a larger and uncertain problem. uh, what's probably more certain, well, I guess it remains to be seen if we'll keep getting map. If we do keep getting map logs, they will almost undoubtedly be broken at some regular basis. Which means that we'll go from having this sort of punctuated series of arcs, where there's very clean starting and ending points, to a continuous stream where you can't just put the entire thing in one file, even if it drops down to only a small portion of the map. And already those are kind of large in places, I think. Yeah, I seem to recall that. Well, you actually don't have images. Well, no. Yeah, tiles. Okay, well, that's a zoom level. Most of it goes to 24, I think. 16 kilobytes. Well, okay. So some of them are bigger. Some of them are smaller. So we've got our key placement. Yeah, interesting. For large-ish. Maybe I was looking at the high up map logs. I looked at map logs. Oh yeah, 24. So 27 would be more comparable to key placement for. Yeah, so actually. 27. Well, yeah, the towns were mostly. No, that's a negative. Interesting. Person that's XY. Yeah, so maybe. But yeah, some of these get quite large. So I kind of think that it might be good to divide those, and if you have to load multiples to look at the entire thing, that's what needs to be done. So what I've been thinking about doing anyway is well, we do more keyframes, which are not themselves small, and I'd like to find some way to get those comparable to the image sizes. I tried a couple different formats earlier, and none of them seemed particularly compact, at which point I might have to go binary, and then you've got compression methods on top of that. This is very similar to the text log format. It's only slightly stripped down. So there are some data compression things, but to be able to handle it at all, I need to be able to do more keyframes and then map logs need to become smaller on top of that. Or the map logs will be chopped up so that individual loads won't be as heavy. I guess you scrub around a lot. You'd still have to be loading many things. But you pretty much have to be able to chop it up to be able to do continuous streams. And since we don't yet have truly continuous streams, or... Well, I guess I can fudge that by taking one of the existing log files and chopping it up. But just being able to generate, I need a data format that says, okay, this is based on this keyframe, this log, and if you ran that all the way up, you then effectively have the next keyframe log without actually having to load the next. So there's going to be logic involved in processing that. One of the things I've been thinking about and this is what was our sort of master thing. We've got the cache. But final placement. Child placement log. Yeah, this has all the gnarly stuff. So one of the things I ended up doing is saying, well, I've got key placements and I've got map logs that are doing very similar. Having to copy paste code between. So I put all of that into one process and then set it up to so that it kind of generates both data sets, then you only pull out one, which in some cases is wasteful. Because you're going to generate both data sets and only use one. But there's a lot of gnarly logic here. Now, one of the things I've been thinking about with respect to this handles edgeovers, which is kind of a gnarly bit of code. If I dropped that from this, then, and there are errors here that need to be fixed, I wouldn't have that dependence in my raw data. But now I have the problem when displaying it that we have to go look in neighboring tile data sets, and we will be fetching more of those sort of around the periphery of the view. So it's like we save a little bit on every data file because we're not having to do extra stuff on the edge, but then we have to be constantly fetching more data files to get that stuff that's on the very edge. Generally, when Leaflet gives us a tile, we don't really have any information about where it is on the screen, so it's not like I can say, well, we know this edge isn't going to be visible, so we're not going to do it now. And then if it becomes visible, we can go back and get that data and redraw it. I'd probably have to be implementing my own tile fetching algorithm at that point. And indeed, one possibility is you completely rewrite the whole thing, so you're drawing a screen at a time. You manage the tiled data fetching yourself, and then it's just data lookups for all the points on the screen. So that's a way to compact the data. It moves some computation into the front end where it has to be done every time. So I'm still torn on that point. I don't think that directly affects us in terms of doing the keyframed format. It's just that while I'm rewriting all of the data, there's a couple of things I've been thinking about, and it would be nice to only have to rewrite it once. Anyway, these gonna be very old by now. Probably don't want to go back to that. Where do I set that up? Probably that process. We're not going to be dealing with the S3 stuff or testing. I probably need to make sure your object database is up to date. I should probably mainly put that. Well, yeah, I think it's really only this file that you. Oh, indeed. One of the things I need to deal with is that if there is an unknown object, we need to assume it is maximum size, not minimum size. I think that's some of the issues we've got. And initially, we probably want to be doing small file stuff. And indeed, I can probably skip this. And then somewhere I have a thing that overwrites, or that might be a code. And then I'll eventually need to look at larger data. Sometimes the error checking's nice, sometimes it's a pain. I don't still use server anymore. Maybe I was using that for debug print or something. Final placements. Yeah, and then there's the whole arc thing, which we're going to need a new kind of file that just records just the keyframes. There's the processed checking. I think there's probably the only check we've got. All right, so that's a nice fast one. So these will be nice and small, but actually, this is a very, I don't even know how big a time period. What is it? Okay, that is 2109. Yeah, so that's like 2 hours. Not necessarily the best candidate for splitting, but it's a small data set we can test on, and we can make it arbitrarily small for testing and then maybe work on something bigger. So this is not going to be arcs. I mean, arcs are still a thing. We'll kind of want that for display purposes, for historical interest. Hmm. Yeah, so this cuts across frames and map logs a little. So we read, okay, so tiled did arcs. So if that is still going to be our common code base, that will be defining keyframes, and we only have to probably write that out in one place. Okay, yeah, it gets written out. Yeah, arcs.value. So we just store it indexed here for the ability to replace a particular timestamp. So keyframes are probably going to look a lot like that. It's just they're going to be more finely chopped. Analyze arc. Self.read. Yeah, so you're set up to read a log file, and then... Well, we used to be able to do output multiple arcs per log file, so it can probably use some similar logic there. File.arc. Ah, yes, each do. Yeah, so it That's a class method that goes over each of them, so it's going to produce a new thing. Not necessarily going to be a new arc every time, but this will replace it if it is updated with a new end. And then the frames will look a little bit like the arcs currently. Oh, right now we're creating an entirely, yeah, this has been an entirely new and empty log. But that only happens when there's a new arc. New arc.new. New arc.new. Checked over. Okay, so initial blank arc, when we get a start line, start a new one, and tiled is the list of placement logs, which always start off completely new. All right, so where was this log? You look pretty small. So for being relatively small, and it's not even the smallest one here, we still have an awful lot of lines. So I suppose for testing purposes, we would want to do something like, I don't know, say break it every 100,000 rows. I mean, maybe we want to do more of a time basis. I mean, this is 7,000 seconds, so equivalently we could do, I don't know, 4,000 seconds. Actually, if that's 2 hours, that would actually, well, having some small little bits would probably be good for testing. Because 60 times 60 is 3,600. 72, yeah. So doing it every hour for testing purposes might be a good test candidate. That will define how often we output. If arcs get updated, they'll overwrite. What is an arc? Oh, so to have equivalent information to pass around, we would need something like so you deal with the actual. All right, this is used when we're just looking for the arc information, which don't actually do it, I don't think. So really, this is just a convenient data structure. I keep frame. I mean, I keep calling it key placement instead of a key frame. And it's sort of frame and it's sort of not. Oh, right. I was calling it final placements, which these are not final placements. These are true intermediaries. Well, there's the key placement, which is the snapshot. An arc represented a start and end span of time. And then the map log will be over that span. And then a map log we're going to have like 0 or something to represent sort of starting from nothing. It actually did have an arc reset. Yeah, so arc set start end times. Frames will have like a base keyframe timestamp and a, I guess, end of period represented, which would be equivalent to some other keyframe. This is going to be more of a span resulting in a keyframe. Now, do we need map log create? You're actually reading a log. This is kind of just a. How did I do map log? That indicates it's not. Hmm. I haven't been paying as much attention to server lately, but maybe I should have room for that. You're kind of like an arc, but not exactly. Arr? Lib. That's why I couldn't complete it. All right, so maybe the tile placement log should have the data for that. It ended up being a lot of arguments to this thing, but it has very few arguments right now. Actually, do you do anything with arc? Yeah, we're sort of totally just reaching in and updating its properties. So maybe that's just attributes of the tiled placement log. Now, we still have to update the arc for historical purposes. Well, I still have to figure out how we deal with not being arc. Okay, so there's here and there is data server. Oop. Import arcs, which we kind of don't use anymore. So there's not a whole lot of reason for this to be a separate thing, actually. You just kind of get all that code. Because it will be the span represented by this log. Well, what does, like, this do? Tiled.arc.arc.arc.arc. We don't really use arc as an object. I mean, we sort of have this implicit thing through the structure, but not the thing itself. It's just through it. So server, I'm not sure I'm properly processing server right now. And then this can be, And how am I using the arc argument to this? Brand new arc, brand new arc. So arc can, that's not going to be, it's not going to stay true. There will be some operations that don't set the arc. Yeah. There's two steps to this. There's split current arc logs, and then there's we're going to have continuous history in the new boundless world. So as is, we could just do our arc.new here. But every time we create one of these, we will not necessarily be creating a new arc. I think that's doable. So for conversion of the existing code, it just goes over to there. This seems to say it's still picking up some caching somewhere. Ah, return if processed. Okay, so that... Wait, so what else did I comment? Or did I undo that? Oh, that was the log file check. In a script I'm not even using. Uh... Apparently we unsaved that. Okay. Don't expect terrible much to have happened there. Okay, so each set of these will have its own set of ranges. We want to say, right now, we're saying if it's a start, if it's placement. So if it's not a start, but it is a placement, you still have to process it. But we might also have to split it. Oh, here's another interesting thing. We have to keep track of our start line. But for splitting larger logs, we don't update that. Let's see, so this is assuming... So this is... We got a new start line. In certain portions of time, that meant there were multiple arcs that happened to have the same seed. This is going to be a little bit closer to what we're doing. We've got a new tile log. It's part of the same log file. But every time we get a start, we have to update our start time. And then we might need to update the arc in progress. If it was just a new start line in the middle of an existing history. So now we have to be mindful that we kind of have two times going on. So now out also has its own S start and its own S end, unfortunately. And for a start line, those are all going to be synced up. I may have to do this like this. Because separately, not always going to reset our start time. Oh, but only start line have second starts? Oh, log has an MS start. Even if it's a placement. Oh no, that's probably a field that we can set up. Arc start. Adder access MS start, which is not equals 0. Right, because that's an offset. This lets us set the absolute time so we can get the absolute time out of it. Just for convenience. So what we're really looking at, and do I even have a way to get that back out? Oh, yeah, because this is actually a little bit down in here. Maybe it's not. Maybe this has to happen just in line with regular log processing. We've got MS offset. Or where do we use this? Or do we... If we ask for time, it's offset plus time. An offset is just the offset. Hmm. Previous.ms offset. Okay, that's a log to log thing. And we only use time for the end, really. I've been doing it. So far, we've only had singular map logs that advance their offset. What have I been writing out? Well, I was doing differences. But last time equals 0, and that's time. So I was doing these as absolute times, internally difference encoded. So when I break these, it's fine to keep processing it as times. But if I want to break it every x time, I can't just be using that offset because we have to know what our current limit is. Oh, and here, oh, there's another thing. Kind of wanted to even out the logs within arcs. Didn't have those sort of little runts. Set an amount, sort of average time for each break. I guess we're going to need some status that tracks that. I do this. Process log file, tab placement log read dot each. Because Because I have also had the problem. Well, that should be a separate issue, because I think I might want to do it so that we can output these chunks individually to hopefully reduce some of our memory consumption and make it work better in the automatic server. But so here's the to know how to break it, I had kind of have to scan the entire thing. Which actually becomes a little bit like ARC. Which gets us a whole series of arcs, essentially. Well, if we have a start time, we have an absolute time. So I could predetermine the absolute timestamps at which we will break it. So we go back to doing a scan through here. Then we go through that. We decide for each arc what timestamps we want to break at. And then have to make sure that that doesn't conflict with getting the actual start line. Well, I guess at any point, if we know when our current log started, well, simple version is you take the time you want per log, have that be a timestamp. If you want to try and even them out, that's where you need to know where it ends. All right, well, seed is logfile.seed. For any given file currently, that remains constant for this operation because there's only one file name. So if I predetermine the timestamps, in theory, I could just possibly ignore the actual start records. All right, so if we take it and scan through it once. Get a list of arcs. In a list of arcs, we determine how many chunks they need to have and try to evenly divide that. I'm a little bit concerned about rounding towards the start end or arc start and arc end. All right, so is there anything that we need? We might just be able to do this. And then options is like all object size stuff. And then for each arc, it's might be more like let's get reading time ranges. Or do we just do arc to that does involve some slight rounding. The map logs have some slight sub-second precision. And then this is where it's not necessarily, well, sort of like a flat map. Map flat, I forget how Ruby does it. This is probably flat. I'm not sure is enumerable. Okay, there's flat 10. Okay, but it's enumerable. Flat map. Well, it's just concatenated. But if we have multiple arcs, it's going to be start and end right up against each other. So we say I don't think I currently have any kind of length. So we have division and we have remainder. Division, I guess we would do the seal on this. And if this, we variously have seconds and milliseconds. If it's seconds, we want something less than that to resolve to something useful. Now, I don't know how. You know what? Actually, PowerShell was able to do directive prompts. You know, if it boots up. Okay, so that does in fact do integer. Now I think if we do that, it will kind of figure it out. So that would be. Okay, then we can round from there. That really is more like, you have more like 800 or 8,000 divided by 3,600. So we want QF and then that entire thing to be sealed. Now I could probably force maxlog to be F for that. That's fair. You're not interesting. Okay, EI. Actually, do I care about the remainder? I just need to know how many chunks to divide it to. And then I need to use a chunk size. That will probably round down. Well, if we use number of chunks rather than advancing it, it should be okay. Mm-mm-mm. So what we want to return is... how do you... I can use numbers for things. Don't do that for it. Number? We can get to integer from there. Integer, there is a numeric. Integer may only make sense for iteration method. Times. Passing values from 0 to... I guess I have to do 1 plus if we were using that. Was... from int up to and including limit. Okay, well that's not really... up to and including. Wait, what do I want? I need that time, and I need that time plus chunk. Let's see. Is... start plus 0, start plus blah, start plus blah. We still have to throw the end on there. Undefined method for nil class. Well, we only do minus in one place. Got an arc with a null start? S start, S end. 33. Oh, typo. Now, we did have arcs. No, we had arcs without seeds, not arcs without ends. Okay, and then I have to... I do need the final time on here. Well, start point. Or break points. Might be okay. Although, I have 2 breakpoints. I expected 3 chunks. Wait, what else am I printing? Where's 2454? Let's see, that's in a block. Eh. There's 2454 again. What? Oh, does chunk dot times not return the array? Does it? Yeah, it's an iteration, not a map. All right. Can I map ranges or do I have to? Okay. Wait, that's 4? Zero, 1, 2. Oh, okay. So this needs. All right. So sometime before we otherwise open this. That should include the start point of every arc. I guess we would only want to. Oh, there's more SN processing. Okay. So where do we say that this is the place we want to break? We've got starts that are already breaking it. Or do we just ignore the start lines and strictly use those breakpoints now? S start, S start, S start, start equals, which has an MS start that we use for this. And I guess map logs will have those too. These have greater than 1 second precision, so we can't count on the start line skipping the breakpoint. This is if our time is maybe I need to do milliseconds. Although you only have S and B. Okay, so lines of MS arcs, we're only caring about down to that precision, but we've actually got the. Okay, so that's where we're getting. Did I add that here, or is that left over? Yep, like that's just always printed start and end. How do we decide it's time to break? Oh, actually, this is going to be. We'd actually like drop the first one of these. Break time. And then once we trigger off one of those, we have to drop it again. Not even time ranges. Then whenever our absolute time got over the current first breakpoint, we would drop one, reset the log. We wouldn't really reset the start time. The question is, how do we interface that with the actual arc start? Or do we actually skip putting the zeros in there? And count on an arc start to reset it for us? I mean, that'd be easy to get rid of this drop. All right, so this lets us get to our absolute time. if breakpoints.any breakpoints.first is and log.s time greater than so that actually is going to change the last entry up there. Okay, C's the same, server's the same, arc stays the same. So this only happens if there was a previous line. If this was our initial line and we got right, because we have to do something to bootstrap things. This should really only happen in the middle of processing. That's the equal 0. And then this stuff still happens. Oh, no, this is not going to be S start, though. It's going to be S time. So that will break it. It will still look like arcs to the downstream code. Okay, that was a little... We forgot to advance breakpoints. So one of these directories is going to look like total trash now. Oh. Guess we didn't get to the output stage. Like it was sort of trying. Or it was probably still using all the ARC information, which is rewriting the same thing over and over again. Shift or unshift? Push and pop or end. That was mostly touching the same areas. So I forgot what we were originally. 32, okay. But it put them all out at the same time because it was using the ARC stuff. This is the arc log, right tiles, tiled arc end. So the tiles are going to go to tiled S end. The paths generated from this file are going to go to your S end. The arc will just get updated with every instance. And the process might actually get getting messy because we're kind of running this over and over again. Okay, well, something's still not right there. Huh? Nor are we outputting multiple things. I'm not sure that this will be useful by itself. Oh no, actually, here's my end. Sure. We are not updating that properly. But are we getting multiple? We're getting multiple rights. I did save you? Map final placements. I should probably just... Oh, I was using some of this stuff here. Why do you... The map process doesn't do much of anything. Output final place. I should probably get rid of those. I'm not using them anymore. I need a separate log for keyframe. Okay, so that's different. Processed is different. This one probably still has extra stuff in it because it was overwritten. Easier, a little bit shorter. This still sort of has everything merged together. Arc start time is still the same. I'll probably eventually need to do something more than a single file of everything. And that should be key placement. Ours. That's just a local variable. Hmm. So a key placement. Well, I guess really the map logs that are we're going to care about the proper start situation. Yes, okay, so this is where this data is going to span. There's placements. They're sort of implied by timestamp. And at some point we have to account for, well, a map log is only processed with. We're currently doing some funny business with multiple logs that have the same, which is something that we have to revisit in light of, actually that will be a place to sort of get into the sort of resumption from previous state. But do I want to record key placements, or do we just want to record spans? Because technically the map logs use the span. But really one kind of implies the other. What? I guess your whole word only? No. I see what I did. Forgot to say everything. And I still mistypoed one. All right, so now we're just talking about hash map. All right, so now what we want to track is E. So you'll have a start, you'll have an end, you'll have a seed. Starts are not. I'm gonna need to separate start and start time and start frame. Because spans will have a period of relevancy. But some of them will have no keyframe that they're based on. And that will be determined when the seed changes, generally. So for a single log, as far as we know, if we're in this operation, currently, the first operation is going to be base 0. Everything after that will be some sort of arc or frame that depends on the previous. I guess I still haven't actually tested this. I don't write that out anywhere. Ah. Should still have a start time, and we have to sort out what else we write out. Das means. Can get replaced. I suppose I could actually be doing a file, like for every directory or something. You're generally going to want to have the start and end information to know which ones to get. Now, I may have to have. So as part of this whole project, I'm probably going to be undoing sort of behind the scenes file merging because I don't. Because so far I've assumed that an entire arc is in one maplog file. That will no longer necessarily be true, so we can better handle the cases where one file defines an arc. I'll just have to take some special care how we define this. But until we deal with those, and I guess I haven't really been using the server. The start for this object. Actually, now that it's inside of itself, I don't necessarily need these to be accessed. No, because the thing that's processing is actually objects. Because I'm going to need to be able to update base frame. Well, that's actually is a frame. Sort of a second, but it's sort of just the directory. So you are going to. I need to make sure that this is an actual. When we roll over, we actually need to know the last. Oh, actually, this might be relatively straightforward. Because whenever we add one of these, or whenever we get a start line, we're assuming same arc. So this is where we have added an entry. We should have been updating the end time as we go. Now, breakpoints generally should only occur in the middle of things, but having the check in there shouldn't really hurt. And we were in output final placements. All right, base 0, base is 35. Base is that. And 35, 89, 44. Now this only, and then we have to deal with the process, the question of multiple files defining a single continuous stream. We're probably printing out some extra stuff, right? Repeat breakpoints. At least. Okay, so you are actually just test instrumentation. I did not end up using. Did I ever give this permission? I guess I did. So that's lib, that's notes. My actual span is kind of unreasonable right now. We would probably, well, I guess what I need to do is run it on a larger file. Oh, and this is only doing, we haven't actually tested map logs yet. And there are some, I have concerns about the way I have these split right now. We're going to end up kind of with matched pairs. Whenever I update these, or whenever I copy them around, I sort of have to, okay, we copy the key placement, and then we go copy the map log. Initially, I did key placements first, and the map logs later. And I did end up with two slightly different formats for processed. Although again, the problem is that right now we're not set up to kind of like reopen these things. If we do it at all, we're doing a full replacement. So I'd have to do some work on where do we put our process log. If I combine those. Okay, it's sort of running. We're probably supposed to be there. Well, this will hopefully sort of address that. Declared objects. It would be nice to do in final keyframes just because it reduces data. Expression could be a little bit down there. Well, this could probably be different directories. I want to. We still have to deal with multiple input files. Which is very similar to resumption from frame. It is kind of a general to what we're looking towards here. And for our more realistic sample, how big are these files? .640 was big-ish. .702 was a bit later. So, yeah, I mean, that might be like a multi-day thing. All right, 60 minutes, 60 seconds is in 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 24 hours. which is going to kind of generate different results in general. I might want to clear this just for clarity. That process. Oh, 2 arcs in one file. I might have to do something special to get the speed 0. Okay, so that only output 2. One of them appears to have been much shorter. So I guess that wasn't a very terribly long one. And these should have been independent base. Well, I kind of want a checkpoint here. We have to listen to our notes, though. Multiple R file. Do a base reset. Whip. Putting map logs. Oh, I also haven't tested this part of it. Don't necessarily need the big file there. I didn't need to do you. I needed to do you. Excuse me? Process. Seems a little bit terrible for the. Oh. You are advancing your time step. Oh, you know what? I did have to make changes to final placements. So we had to do. Oh, interesting. No, you are the wrong output. But that's a very different format. The spans, in theory, only need to be done once. Should break the same way every time. But you need to use this time. Oh. But I probably didn't update my yes, I updated. So that would that would have actually gone to ML test. And oh, I'm probably left a skip on the process check. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know how that compared on a number of outputs. You have data? Yeah. Placements that were looking large before. Well, this is the super small one, so that's not too surprising. All right, so the thing that we didn't have. Almost needs to be a well, it's got a tile width for the breakpoint, but then that has to get set everywhere else. Also, I mean, I need something that's actually large. Test on. That's pretty big. First, it also takes a while to process. All right. I guess that'd be better. So we had. Do I even care about the span size? So how do you say there are truly multiple arcs in one file? Oh, right, because this is defining a new arc. So you would not do this here. This implicitly defines a new arc. So it's only when we split it that we maintain base, until we have to deal with file resumption. Okay, it's a slightly bigger file. I don't remember taking it that long though, last time. Okay, we output two things. Were there like multiple start points in there? I don't have that down. Oh, no, I probably didn't clear this. So from all my other testing. Okay, they both have base 0. Then the thing we'd want to check would be still divide it properly. This is probably too small for this set of data. We're gonna have lots of, well, we know it's less than a day. So at worst, we've got, what, 23 each? Yeah, a couple hours. Okay, there's the break. Not very exciting from a difference perspective. We have to square that with what if we have multiple input files that are for the same arc? Well, that's actually might be handled. Because this involves the arc split before. No. Not going to be quite the same because we eventually, since we're going to be from now on not batch processing everything once, want to be able to handle instances where we are split over multiple files without pretending they're all one file. I commit this. All right, so in order to have that sort of scenario, and we might be able to do some useful things by sort of trying to control which files we process, so that that series of files on the same seed will give us our setup for incrementally adding files to a set. Yeah, we left something open here. There, though. What did that leave us with? Oh, and yet it managed to do it. All right, so this was one arc with multiple start. Right. I just had multiple start times. 2 arcs in one file, 1 arc with multiple start times. Which is fine. We could actually let that break as long. I guess it's worth testing. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, just that scan for the length does take a bit in the bigger files, though. Right, well, I'm overdue for some water. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Even more subdued than my... Oh, you can flip the rover at any time now. Neat. I guess in this situation that would be um 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 drop it.
Mode, and I guess I'll select, these are really simple, so I'm in edge mode now, so I want to switch back to faces, alt, right click, guess we go ahead and click, oops, that's not what I wanted to do, Control Z, right, right click, oh, just shift right click.
See, he would have done that against our Strider. Which also makes him a 6/6 and then a 7/7.
Yeah, but what is he gonna swing into us?
No,
Well, he might have something that just gives it first strike, or
he would have to have a bolt. 2 cards left in hand. Go ahead, bring it on. Bring it on.
right,
Oh, he's smart.
Cast it.
Lost my basket.
Welcome back, and we are still going. Not a big one. Two. Oh yeah, that was a pretty big one. But after this point, we start seeing split files when this type of thing happens. So it's one of the only examples of this precise scenario that we've got. It's probably going to be long enough to split, though. Oh, now here's a question. Yeah, we're doing this wrong. Whenever we split, we reset placements, but not objects and floors. Okay, so the spans at least worked out. All right, so back to our nice fast one. So how do we want to approach? So right now, every time we call new, we're treating this as a new world. With base 0. And the way this works right now is that in order for objects and floors to work, we're actually going to have to duplicate this entire thing. Which kind of makes, because I could just take this and continue using this state if we were yielding as we went. Now, we are actually using the tiled list, though. Well, I mean, this is just a last value. We can put a little variable for that. So we would have to ask if we had gotten any data. No, yeah, that's if start and split it exists. I think that would work as a yield from here. That's going to change the interface with all of these. Which probably means I should go ahead and dump these older scripts. They stop confusing me. So map final placement, map log tiled. I've at times had some other experience with formats, which will be interesting at some point. There's probably some other stuff I could do with cleaning up here, but okay, so you're just that, which is in test mode. We want to maintain that state between span breaks. Going to be kind of coming to this, and we have to deal with, or as sort of as part of that, I want to yield, which will maybe address some of, I think, memory size issues running automatically. That should leave us with final placement, or I guess outputs. Where is it? Tiled. Object data. Oh. Okay, I did that, but it's still reaching it over into object overs. Okay. Output map log, output final placements, and then the thing itself. Okay, so this is in fact the only two places these are used directly. So right now, this is an each do. We want to make this a yield. So instead of this being an array, this, however, is where we do have to track our last time. I might want to redo that stat, but it's not terribly important. Oh, what are you? Oh no, that's it. Okay. If there was something in there, actually, I think we were always putting the previous one on there, so it was. This is the new S base is the previous S end. There's always at least this. I guess that could be a parameter. If this was a breakpoint, there really should have been previous data. First one will just be by default. Or we could track that field separately. There. I almost want to do have that as a parameter because it's like this is going to be a 0, that's going to be previous value. First, now I have to deal with. Now I have to deal with other kinds of resumption. Because that's also, that could get wrapped up in how we deal with this state. All right, map process is back on small file. We're back on small units. That only output twice. That's a little bit of a problem. Still look good. Oh. He's getting like... Oh, no, it was the map logs that were... Probably especially at the larger... Getting shrunk down. So how could they be less than this? Because they're representing smaller areas then. All right, so this... It's our iteration method. We have incremental yield. Now, what we missed before is actually maintaining map state. Essentially, we're going to reset placements while maintaining this. And we almost don't even need the object now because we're going to yield it and use it and be done with it. An add to a reader, but that just means we can't wholesale replace the object. We could take that hash and clear it, and then just carry on our merry way. Or we have to have some way to copy over. And then the nice property of that is that we could maintain seed, maintain server, we'd set the base equal to the previous. I just have to make that stuff accessible to an outside process. Well, or I guess I have like a special initialized structure for that scenario. We have to create a new instance. They're going to create all that. Standard initialize is going to do this. sort of need. More dedicated initializers. So do I want to have a sort of do nothing actual initialize method? I can then go either of those ways. Your basic initialize would in fact be base equals 0. And indeed, I'm not sure we ever actually have start and end available. Your 0, 0, your start, start, your time, time. And then we would have something like, well, I could either go this thing creates a new instance and moves properties over, which is the context that's running in. Or we say that thing dot copy, which then has to go up to its class, create one, and then copy properties to it. So and when we hit next span, we're really just going to have start time? Can we ever... Oh, no, we just pass arc. Feed. Oh, and then we maintain the arc when we are doing the break. That was a reader before. So you would have a start and a... That's really the only new information. See, that's updatable. So how much of this really needs to be like init? Well, I guess you knit it with yourself and then... Right now, it would be S base is my S end. Start is start. My seed. And then my arc. But if I'm making a copy, rather than sort of resetting my state, I need to copy, these things need to be writable, rather than there's like a reset method that clears placements. Oh, no, because they're objects. No, because if we're copying... kind of like to maintain structure. Or we have a method for that. No, private means it's self-call. I don't know if there's a protected. But actually, when I come to loading state, I'm going to need possibly some way to load this anyway. Objects. And actually, this is where I was thinking we could do something like that. And then probably that doesn't need to be a parameter at all. So now we never actually call this with a known engine. And it's accessible. This would generally be also where we would maintain arc. That has not been writable. All right, so you should only have start time 0. You should have, this is going to be out equals out dot next span. And everything else is we've maintained the seed, we've maintained the server. The SN will come from the previous record, the time we passed in, we maintain seed, we copy the arc. Unfortunately, this is a really hard property to observe. We could look, well, be a lot easier to observe if we had ways to view these things. Because any of these points could have been overwritten. Doesn't feel like I've really sorted these at all. So maybe one of the things that was in the other version will still be there. Maybe it won't. Well, I guess for keyframe, like tutorials just kind of accumulate. So that's one thing we might be able to observe. So in the first version, we did 2093, 2194. Tutorials have advanced. So if we putting out the entire thing, yeah, so the tutorial keyframes will just keep going. That might be a small concern. Oh no, we're getting 5 split to 3 to 4. No, I probably didn't update. Well, oh, it's this one. This was base 0, log start, the server, the seed, brand new arc. So for the basic version, we just cut it down to server start seed. And I thought browse tool. Oh, UI didn't actually update. With an arc for well, that's not that file. Out placement wrong. No output final placement. Okay, so that's the loop. Ah, 88, there we go. Out.arc. Oh. So something I did here, yeah, copy key, need to return self, so copy key return self. And what we do see now is instead of like 20, 25, 25, 25, we have a gradually increasing amount of data. So it's like I want keyframes to be a complete snapshot so we can pick up processing from. But if I don't do any like sort of data merging, like something like tutorials are just gonna go out there and some of them will never be touched again. The overall map is going to travel westward from Well, I guess the one thing I could do there. Well, I mean, map proper. It tiles with no activity in 4 hour span. Realistically, we want to track of the last time that tile had activity. And at some point, you'd have to call it out. Call it 7 days. Pass through there. Call it a little bit longer. That means I have to keep track of every tile's. I guess that could be a sort of when we are resuming state, if sense to. I don't currently have per tile. Maintain the state, we're going to keep writing it out and writing it out and writing it out. I guess there's the map log. Placement log will be represent the last act. So on resumption, map logs are all right. So we've checked that off. We can do that. But if we are reloading previous state, we do that forever. Huh. So the thing is, it's not that I mind showing them, but it's almost like we need some sort of Git-like storage system to say this was the last known state of that tile. Although, I mean, realistically, the map is going to be doing expiring on server restarts. We don't know when server restarts are going to be. So it may be a little bit inaccurate to show things that aren't there anymore. And I may need, well, the map logs are sort of an activity, but they don't match. They don't perfectly match up with keep. So it's almost like I need another bit of data with key placement that just is just, a exists or doesn't exist file that says there was real activity here this cycle. So you can go back and or the file itself could potentially have that. Something like the start line. Okay, we were able to do that. This seems like a big-ish thing, because now we're reading back our files. Basically, we're initializing this stuff. Placements, as long as we have that baseline, themselves should be perfectly fine. Now I could potentially I could try to take this in baby steps to say, okay, can my front end handle keyframes? Yeah, we still have data processing. These are probably going to be pretty close. I think we have to unhack the multi-file thing and get those to resume from previous state, and then that will be pretty close to what we might see going forward. Hmm. All right, I think it's going to be hard enough I want to handle that in the future. Hmm. Now what do I want to do? Yeah, that'll probably be it for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks to everybody who hosted me. What do we have? This is about when I'm usually on. Alright, not a whole lot of code. Well, Zerator is working on a RTS project. Now, I think he used to be doing something, well, maybe it was RTS, maybe it was. It didn't look terribly RTS. This could be a new project. But yeah, if you're looking for someplace cool to hang out, Thanks for hanging out with me. Goodbye.